This is assignment 11B, the research based off of Malcolm X and the Martin Luther King biographical information. We already completed the side of Malcolm X. We're going to complete the side of Martin Luther King, and then it's your job tonight to decide the similarities between their backgrounds and their philosophy or strategy on equal rights during the civil rights movement. Okay? All right, everybody follow me on the left. Martin Luther King biographical information. Top left, here we go. Martin Luther King Jr. was born on January 5th, 1929 in Atlanta, Georgia. His father, Martin Luther King Sr., was one of the most important ministers in the South and was himself the son of a preacher. Okay, so Martin Luther King Jr. was a minister. His father was a minister too. Make sure you type that. His father was a minister. All right. Although, here I am on the right, although young Martin's family was by no means rich, it was clearly middle class. The King family had many positive role models and was full of Christian love. Okay. Middle class, I'm typing. Let's say they had a stable family. Okay, so make sure you put that there. Martin was told by a white family one day at the age of 6, he was just a kid, a child. Martin was told by a white family that he could not play with their son because of his skin color. This hurt the boy, who had never before been aware of racism. Scrolling. Now on the top left, I'm reading, when he went home and tearfully explained what happened, his parents sat him down and told him about the facts of racism in America. He experienced racism at 6 years old. Here you go. Experienced racism at 6 years old, very young child. Okay. You see my little cursor? I'm at the word but. But they also told young Martin, don't let it make you feel the racism. Don't let it make you feel you are not as good as white people. You are as good as anyone else. And don't you forget it. Martin's parents also taught him that it was his Christian duty not to hate the white man. Martin took his teaching to heart. So let's say he was a Christian who did not believe in hate. Okay, his parents taught him that and shaped him that way. Christian who do not believe in hate. In this loving, you see where my cursor is? In this loving and strict household, the young king's enormous talents were allowed to mature. He excelled in school and at age 15 passed the entrance exam to Morehouse University and enrolled in college. He went to college at age 15. Okay? He next attended Crozier Seminary and eventually received his PhD in theology from Boston University. So he went to a Christian school that taught him about Christianity. He wanted to be a preacher as well. So let's type this. But he was highly educated in college as well as in the Christian faith. So it's a giveaway, right? We already learned that Malcolm X there's evidence that in his life, his early life, he was really intelligent. And now look at Martin Luther King Jr. There's evidence that he was really intelligent. Oh, that's a similarity. They have that in common, right? That's something you can put in the center later on. It was at Crozier University, the school, right, that Dr. Martin Luther King was introduced to the life and teachings of Mahatma Gandhi. Now, this is in India, Mahatma Gandhi. Gandhi had led a massive nonviolent movement that freed India. Oh, let's scroll over. And here I am in the top left, of British colonial rule. King was greatly impressed by Gandhi's nonviolence and appeal for love. All right. In the 19th century, during the 1800s, Great Britain, England, right? Great Britain was one of the most powerful countries in the world because they had a powerful military of ships that can travel along to go to countries that did not have advanced technology and large militaries. And when they found a country who had natural resources, items in which the British could use to make other products and sell and get rich, they would take over that country and control the people. They would colonize that country. So a little backstory is the British colonized India, hundreds of millions of people living there, and the British controlled them. The British wanted their salt. The British wanted many of their spices. The British wanted much of the ingredients to make teas. And people from India living in India were living under British rule in unfair conditions. Mahatma Gandhi, was a lawyer. He was very smart. He was a poor boy who grew up to become a lawyer, and he started a movement against the British. We have to get the British out of our country. And the story is, what strategy did Gandhi use to get the British out of his country? He led hundreds of thousands of people in a non-violent movement where they would protest and march, but they would never become violent. And the more the British brutalized them, beat them down, hit them, killed them, Gandhi and his followers would never fight back. Now, this went out in newspaper reports around the world of the brutality of the British, the immorality of the British, the evil actions of the British. The British looked so poor in the eyes of the rest of the world, eventually they left India. So Gandhi's strategy was love and nonviolence in the protest. This inspired Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. when he was young. And he said that might be a great strategy in advancing equal rights for African Americans in America during the 1960s. It's very important for you to understand that. Okay? Okay, look what I'm typing here. He adopted Gandhi's strategy of nonviolence to advance the equal rights movement of the 1960s. Now, this is his strategy. I'm going to underline this, I think. Do I have that option? I do. Very important. That's his strategy, okay? Give you a second. I'm going to go back up to the left. King, new paragraph right here, follow my cursor. King did not leave school expecting to change the world. He was interested in becoming a local pastor. However, in December 1955, at the age of 26, King was thrust into the national spotlight. Ooh, this big event happened. The week following Rosa Parks' decision to remain seated in the front of a Montgomery bus, we should all know who Rosa Parks was, King was chosen to lead a boycott that would send shockwaves throughout America. His strong leadership and clear descriptions of the value of nonviolent protest helped keep Montgomery boycotters from dividing. Within a year, Montgomery buses were desegregated. Okay, so this is what we're going to type here. So he tried out his strategy. So in Alabama, there's this city called Montgomery, Alabama. At the time, they had buses for whites and buses for non-whites. It was separated and segregated. Or if you got on one bus, the whites would sit in the front of the bus and African Americans would have to sit in the back of the bus. And that was the law. And now Martin Luther King applied Gandhi's nonviolent strategy to this protest, and he was successful. Okay, that's a big deal. Okay, I'm in the top left 2 years later. Once you finish this. 2 years later, King and other ministers formed the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, the SCLC, in early 1963. The SCLC struck a blow at segregation in Birmingham, Alabama. Here, King wrote his famous Letter from a Birmingham Jail, detailing why the civil rights movement could no longer wait. Next, King and his helpers staged a march in Washington in August of 1963. Over 250,000 people attended the rally, at which King delivered his famous I Have a Dream speech. The march convinced President John F. Kennedy and his successor, Lyndon Johnson, that they had enough support in the country to push hard for a new set of laws ending segregation or separation between whites and blacks in the South. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965 soon followed. These actions by Congress ended Jim Crow laws. Okay, there's a lot to consider here. He gave a speech in 1963. Over 250,000 people attended. He convinced members of the government to change laws that separated people according to the color of their skin. All right, there's a lot there. I'll give you a minute to get it down. This is the single greatest effect of Martin Luther King's nonviolent approach. He convinced the United States government and two presidents, the United States Congress, to end laws, especially in the South, that separated whites and blacks, and to allow African Americans to vote. Okay, And I'm in the top left here of the reading. And he was promised federal government support in enforcing these new laws. For the role he played in bringing about these historic changes, King was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. Wow. Okay, make sure you have that. For the rest of his life, he fought for voting rights, economic opportunity, fair housing, and racial justice throughout the country. On April 4th, 1968, Martin Luther King Jr. was gunned down by an assassin on a motel balcony in Memphis, Tennessee. He was murdered or assassinated. In 13 short years, he had touched millions of lives and influenced an entire generation of people and leaders. All right. Now, what I would do here, I'd highlight this in yellow, which I underlined, very important. And I would highlight this in yellow, very important. Let me bring this back down so you can see it. You have the rest of the period. You have a few minutes to take a look at what is similar between Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. And you're typing it in the bullet points. So you're going to look back on the left and look on the right. Look on the left under Martin Luther King, look on the right under Malcolm X. What is similar about their upbringing, about their personalities, their actions, their strategy to end laws that promoted racism and separation? And you're going to type in the bullet points. This must be completed for tomorrow. We're going to move on to the primary documents, their words, okay?